The Prime Minister made it very clear that he has already planned the agenda of his third term.
Don't sit here and lecture us. Don't sit here and lecture us, Mr. McAdams. We shut him down.
I'm not talking. It's the other guy who's talking. I haven't been able to say a word.
Screaming matches and a nationalistic fervour have become the norm on prime-time Indian news. Anchors and journalists are often seen openly batting for the government.
In the process of trying to block Narendra Modi, they shall become speed breakers in the story of India's national growth.
And abusing the opposition.
Deep within, if you look at the words of Rahul Gandhi, he's sounding like what he is. He's an entitled 55-year-old brat who has not done anything in his life by merit, but only by birth.
And for his part, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has never really given a press conference to Indian media.
But there have been several interviews given to a chosen few.
हमारे प्रधानमंत्री आम खाते
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी के लिए खुशी का मतलब क्या है?
अगर आपके चेहरे पर खुशी देखो, मेरे मन को खुशी होती है। खास करके किसी गरीब के चेहरे पर खुशी देखो।
Meanwhile, publications that report unfavourably on the government have faced pressure. News Laundry is a digital publication that has come under such scrutiny.
In the last 2 or 3 years, I stopped counting. We've got about between 55 and 60 income tax notices. We've had 2 raids, which they call surveys. I've had my phone and laptop taken away, which in my understanding is actually against the law. And there has been a case against me where the income tax wanted to proceed against me with criminal proceedings, which they were denied because you have to have some sort of evidence, however sketchy it may be. But it goes on, they've appealed.
The Indian media environment wasn't always like this though.
There was a time when they were reporting without fear, without any kind of a constraint. Now, from different means or from different sources, they get a sense, they get a message that no, this cannot go in print or this cannot be aired.
Sanjay Kumar is the co-director of Lokniti, a research program at the Centre for the Study of Developing Societies.
All of them believe or get a sense or experience that the house in which they are working, the media house, whether it is print, electronic, there is a tendency to favor the ruling party. I don't think this is unusual in the Indian context. Whenever there is a party which is in the government, you would tend to have a section of media supporting the ruling party and a section of media who would be very, very critical of the ruling party. But I think the difference in present day times is that a very large proportion of media is in support of the ruling party and a very tiny section of the media is openly criticizing. The level of trust in the media has come down because generally there is a shared sense that large number of media houses have started supporting or tilting their stories in favor of the ruling party.
A recent study by this organisation found that 82% of journalists felt their employers supported the ruling BJP government. Publications that have done stories critical of India's leadership, like the BBC, recently saw their offices raided on charges of tax evasion or money laundering. One of the country's most popular news channels that reported critically on the government, I.N.D.I.A, had its founders raided for bank fraud.
Teams from the Central Bureau of Investigation raided the residence of N.D.I.A promoters Pranoy and Radhika Roy in New Delhi's Greater Kailash colony this morning.
In a statement, N.D.I.A has alleged that the CBI raids are a witch hunt based on false allegations.
And behind the scenes, there's been a reordering. Billionaires believed to be close to the Prime Minister, like Gautam Adani and Mukesh Ambani, have either increased their stakes or bought over news organizations in recent years.
And in this churn, many popular journalists have chosen to quit.
और आज उसे छोड़ रहा है, इस्तीफा दे रहा है.
Nidhi Razdan was the executive editor of N.D.I.A and a mainstay on Indian TV screens for over 20 years.
2024 campaign.
She resigned just last year, soon after Adani bought a majority stake in the network.
Suffice to say, I think it's pretty obvious why I left. I think we wanted to give it a fair shot to see if all the promises that were made about keeping the editorial independence of N.D.I.A intact would actually happen. And it was pretty clear to us within the first few days of the takeover that that would not be the case. I actually am teaching at a university in Delhi. I'm heading the School of Communications there. I'm also writing 2 columns a week, political columns. But a lot of my colleagues who have left, they've started their own YouTube. Ravish Kumar is, of course, hugely popular on YouTube right now.
Many have now made the switch to YouTube, launching their own channels on a platform where there's far more freedom. Akash Banerjee used to work at mainstream TV channels. Today, he's one of the most watched YouTubers in the country.
The whole concept of satire and taking news in a funny way really appealed to me. And one knows that you can't do it in Indian television. YouTube suddenly seemed a good opportunity at that point of time.
And in this digital space too, changes are in the pipeline. The government is now pushing forward 3 laws to regulate digital media. So where does that leave creators like Akash?
One specific law allows the government now to decide who is right, who is wrong, who's factual, who's not. The government of India will have its own fact-checking unit, which is unprecedented actually in a democracy, that the government will decide if a certain fact that is being talked about is factual or not. And the new broadcast regulation bills, very simple, one very basic fact. So tomorrow somebody does not like an episode that we do at the Deshbhakt, the person will raise a complaint and say that I am not happy with you. And I am duty bound to then answer to that person within 24 hours. And with the new broadcast regulation bill, you'll see digital content creators being controlled in a much more brutal manner in the days to come. I do not think I am aware of any democratic country where YouTubers are subject to government regulation. And the present day laws are good enough. It's not like YouTubers haven't been shut down. On national security grounds, on law and order grounds, the government has already got the right to pull down YouTubers. But then to go ahead and bury them in paperwork, to bury them in permissions, is obviously to send a chilling message down that, listen, control your talk, be respectful, don't ask too many questions, otherwise we can come after you. The message always from any government has been, we can come after you, watch it.
Dhanya Rajendran is the editor-in-chief of the digital news platform, The News Minute. She's grappling with the same issues as Akash.
So the BJP-led government of India has had a problem with the digital media space, especially the English digital media space. It is more or less really independent and it keeps asking tough questions to the government. So initially, a few years ago, the government very ingeniously said that we are going to bring digital media rules to take on 2 problems. One is of fake news and second is of child pornography. Now when you say there is a lot of child pornography or child sexual abuse material on the internet and we want to bring a law in, who would oppose it, right? That's the first excuse given by the government to bring in the digital media law. I'm actually the first litigant along with The Wire. We were the first 2 people who went to court against the law, and then there was a stay which was given by 2 courts in India. I think it is because of the stay that the government is now trying to bring the broadcast bill.
As the BJP presses ahead with changes to media laws, India has been slipping in the World Press Freedom Index rankings in the past decade. For many in the industry, it's clear there has been a shift.
I really don't think that you need any press freedom rankings to tell you that the state of the media is not good. And the reason for that is that a large section of the mainstream media in this country no longer holds power to account.
The industry is growing. There are more channels, more news shows, more online creators covering the news than ever before. R. Jagannathan has been in the news industry for decades. He now runs Swaraja magazine, an outlet that bills itself as right of center.
I think it is far more aggressive and partisan, definitely. There has been a gradual sense of rediscovery of our civilizational heritage, which means that people are a lot more sensitive to what is being said about India, because they believe that indirectly you're saying the same thing about Hindus and not India. After the BJP came to power, the Western media is a lot more hostile to the government itself, in a more fundamental sense against the 80% of the people who happen to be Hindus.
And yet, in sections of Indian media, there has been a sense of loss.
I was safer as a journalist then than compared to what I am now. Definitely, the challenges have increased, the threats have increased. Today, there's more threat of litigation, of online harassment, of government censorship and all that. There were threats back then too. It's not like it was not there. It has increased, but somehow I want to be that eternal optimist.
You have to punch up. That is the whole point of journalism, not satirist. That is the point of journalism, to punch up. I think that art has been forgotten somewhere.
I never imagined a day where I would leave like this, or that the organization would change in this way. But I do see hope in those YouTube platforms that we talked about, especially the digital media. I see hope in them because they're still doing good journalism.